Welcome to the Fresh Start Family Show. I'm your host, Wendy Snyder, powerful parenting educator and family life coach. And together we are going on a journey to help you expand your heart, learn new tools, and strengthen your family so you can build the family legacy of your dreams. Take a deep breath and get ready to be poured into with some fresh start inspiration. Let's do this. Hello, families, and welcome back to a new episode of the Fresh Start Family Show. I'm so happy that you are here. I'm Wendy Snyder, powerful parenting educator and family life coach, and I am excited to have this conversation with you today about what has kind of died away, so to speak, in my own life and what is coming alive. What does this new season ahead of us as we head into Easter? What does this new season of rebirth and newness look like for me? What is giving me hope these days? I have some really great things I want to share with you that have filled my heart with so much hope in a season, especially if you're here in America with me, that has just been heavy and heartbreaking. And so many of us are walking around just trying to do our best to show up in motherhood or parenthood or work, our careers, our marriages, just trying to keep doing life. And yet current affairs are just really affecting our heart. And I think there's a certain population of us that is just really affected. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We, in my opinion, want to be affected by humanity. And when humanity is suffering, there is just always going to be, I think, a section of us who feels called to stand up for humanity. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. I always do an episode this time of year, right around Easter, around what I've been working to release. And it's interesting because as I look at what I've been working on for the past 2 years or so, it feels like it is fully coming to culmination now. Like I feel like I have really been through the ringer, so to speak. The biggest thing that I've been working on through the past few years as an educator, as an author now, we have our new book, Fresh Start Your Family, Powerful Parenting to Restore Peace in the Home, that drops on May 19th. Pre-orders are out in the world. But I always heard that becoming an author and like getting your work on a high level platform like that will put you through the ringer spiritually, emotionally, physically too. It took a lot of work. And I can see what that pathway has looked like now, because the emotional side of putting yourself out there in this big of a way or platform, it does require and invite you into massive growth. So I think when I look at, for me, this Easter season, and I just reflect like, hey, God, what have you been up to in my life? As I lead my community, as I write this book, as I lead my family, my little girl just turned 18, which is still so wild to me that I have an adult child. But God, what have you been up to? Like looking back, not just on this year, but the years past, what have you been helping me to let go, to be okay with dying, so to speak, as we look at the Easter season? That is the Easter story, right? We look at the death of Christ, but how that was not the end, how death used to be, or, we think it's like the end and it's this awful thing. But the Easter story shows us that rebirth and new life, the new chapter is actually the thing. It's the most important thing is the new life, right? Like we get to see death as just a way of life. It is there. And so I think for me, it's been really freeing and empowering to look at the death parts of my life, so to speak, or my career or my spirit, whatever, as healthy and good. So one of the things I've been working on is really caring more about what I think and what God thinks than about what others think. And raise your hand if you can relate to this whole people-pleasing tendency. Like it's just so wild. I've been doing this work for 15 years now. So I found this work of powerful parenting when Stella was 3. She's now 18. So I've been learning, educating, life coaching, investment, therapy, 15 years of it. And in the very beginning, I think I can see how I didn't quite realize the levels of deep growth work that it was going to take to like fully become mastered in this body of work, so to speak, that I now have the honor of teaching thousands of parents every year. But in the beginning, I didn't quite realize. So as I've gotten more and more advanced in this work, I could tell there was just a part of me that was still hanging on to trying to make everyone happy. And I see this a lot in the students that I help, and it is a crippling thing to think that you can make everyone happy because you can't. And that's okay. I think part of becoming a grown up, especially a mature, healed grown up, is learning to really anchor down into your intuition, to divine calling. I'm always telling my students that I believe that intuition and knowing and the answers, so to speak, where you should go next, what step you should take, who you should trust, what you should do, it comes from both within and it comes from above, right? So that's like, to me, it's like an image. If you happen to be watching me, I'm recording this on Instagram Live right now too. If you happen to be watching me, it comes from here and it comes from here, right? And it meets in our heart. I see our heart as the moral compass middle of our human soul, right? I think for a lot of families I work with, they were raised in homes where the heart was like demonized almost. Like, no, 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 it's not safe. The heart is wicked. Don't listen to your emotions. They'll take you astray. And it's just heartbreaking because that is actually our moral compass, right? Like that is where the good stuff lands. That's where the guidance happens. Like we want to have our hearts stay open and to be able to really trust yourself and to, again, care more about what you think and God thinks versus what other people think. It's just been a very intense but freeing process for me. And that's really had kind of two arms to it. One of them has been to eradicate shame from my own life. So that thought of like, what is wrong with me that I didn't quite realize was pretty deep in my soul until I was, if I'm 48 now, it probably wasn't until I was like 44 that I realized. And that's after I had been doing this work for about a decade. I didn't quite realize how deep those roots of shame were sitting in me. What is wrong with me? Or, what if I make the wrong choice? Or if I mess this up, it's because something is wrong with me, right? I grew up in a home where it's like, what is wrong with you or shame on you was one of the most common things you would hear if you messed up, if you didn't get it perfect, if you, rolled your eyes or did something that disappointed your parents, like, what is wrong with you? Shame on you. You should know better. And so really stepping into full confidence of who I was and where I wanted to take my company, my organization, my family, my marriage, doing that took eradicating shame, like seeing where it was still in my body and completely eradicating it. We're going to talk about the idea of completely eradicating things in this episode today. And then the other side was really that releasing of what other people care. And I think what's happened to me this year is I've learned so much about how to stay in true integrity with myself and not demonize others, right? I think what's happened in America this last year, it's been messy. It's been messy, right? Like those of us who really care about our neighbors and our children and our family and ourselves and our country, we've just been trying to figure out, like, how do we stand tall for what we believe in all of these different aspects of our life and do it in a way that connects us to others and brings us closer, even if there might be places where we disagree on certain things, right? And so that's been a big learning point for me too. And I have some really amazing people in my life who have helped me and guided me when I've gotten off track. And so as I share the things I'm going to share in today's episode, I pray that you feel that. You feel that growth work that I've put into conversations like this, where, you guys can just always count on me as your parenting coach to really be doing the work myself. And if I teach you how to do it in parenting, how to have empathy and compassion and humility in your parenting walk, you better believe that I'm going to be practicing it as a human being, not just for myself as a parent, but within my marriage, within my the way I lead my employees, the way I lead this community. Like I am just a work in progress, just like everyone else, right? So I hope you feel that intention today to share things that are very true to myself, have never felt more truer, And also do it in a way that if you happen to have a different belief system or see things differently, that you don't feel attacked or demonized, but I get to stand tall in the things that I know deep in my soul that I've never felt more conviction around in my entire life. And you get to own the things you believe, right? And we all are in this beautiful dance of, I think, co-regulation as fellow human beings and also influence, right? Because in our world, we help so many parents who are raising strong-willed kids, and strong-willed kids are so good to help us grow because they will not be forced to respect anybody. They have high levels of sensitivity to hypocrisy, and if they don't truly respect you, they will not. They will not respect you. They will disobey. They will not cooperate, right? So I love that I get to help so many people with strong-willed kids because I think strong-willed kids, they keep us steady and they keep us in integrity. So, okay, so Easter is coming. I think by the time this episode airs, it'll be the following week. So right now, we're just embarking on the beginning of Lent, where we're really looking at humbly, like, what do we want to release? Like, what do we want to let go of? What do we want to be without for a while to just remind us like what truly matters? That's kind of the way I see Lent. And again, for me, it is the trying to make everyone happy, because when I do that, I forgo putting God first. And that is something that I want to humbly bring to the table and say, ugh, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. I definitely in my life, maybe you can agree, want to put God, or maybe you connect more with angels, universe, Mother Nature, whatever. I want to put that first. That is, I believe, where our biggest source of inspiration and guidance comes from. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to travel. I got to go home. It was kind of cool because I did 2 back-to-back trips that felt like I was on different planets. So I went home to Maryland, and that's where I grew up. I grew up in a small country town in Maryland. And when I go back there, it's kind of like a time capsule. It is like nothing has changed. I love my parents so much. And there's been really no change, right? Like they haven't done any therapy. They haven't done any life coaching work. They're not really reading books about how to grow and whatever. And then my neighbors who live right next door, who I grew up with my entire life, we were born together. Now they're like pretty much the same age as me. And their mom is still around. Their dad died a few years ago, but they're still there. And so they are similar. Nothing has changed. Like nothing. Hi, honey. My honey's on right now. Hi, Terry Snyder. So nothing has changed. And when I go back there, it's always like, I just get to use my tools, right? I get to practice having compassion and empathy, but yet standing tall. So like when my neighbors say racist comments, I get to practice saying like, oof, like not cool. Or just at least not laughing at it, right? Like there was days when I used to just like laugh or giggle just because I would feel uncomfortable and I didn't know what to say. And nowadays, like I've really grown in my ability to practice my tools and be like, I don't agree. I don't feel the same way. I love you and I don't feel the same way, but they really are very different than me and I love them like family. But it's just this like very time capsule feeling. So then from Maryland, I celebrated my dad's 84th birthday, which was so good. And then I hopped over to Tennessee to like a different planet where I got to be with over a room of over 200 of the most incredible human beings on the planet. And this was Kate Northrup's Nervous System Healing and Financial Abundance Summit that I go to every single year. And this year, all of the years have been amazing, but this year in particular, the guests were absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal. The speakers just keep getting better and better and better. And I don't say that because past speakers weren't good. They were always amazing. Like they're always amazing, but something is happening in Kate Northrup's world that is just so powerful. And it's such an honor to be a part of it. So she had top nervous system experts like Elizabeth Kristoff, who is, I think by the time this episode comes out, maybe her episode will have aired. I think so. But Elizabeth Kristoff is the founder of the Neurosomatic Institute and does nervous system healing and certification work. And I just love her and respect her so much. And tons of different speakers. Patrice Washington, who I think will be on the show in a few weeks, is when her episode airs. I love her. And then a woman named Lynn Twist, who I'd never heard her work before. And she is the author of a book called The Soul of Money, and she's 80 years old. And so as she sat on this stage and had a fireside chat with Kate Northrup, who I've been studying under for years now, I found myself just in awe of what she shared. And I think listening to her speak really was pivotal for me, like having this vision and this grounding drop into my soul. That is what I'm going to be sharing with you today about what is really giving me hope for the future. And so her and her partner, so Lynn Twist, she wrote The Soul of Money, I think a few decades ago. And then, and it's really a book about conscious capitalism, so to speak. It's about how we can, it's hard to explain, but her work is very around sufficiency. Sufficiency is like having enough, right? But the way you are accumulating wealth and things in your life in a way that you can freely share, right? Like the way she teaches sufficiency and creating businesses and wealth that it takes to live in a capitalistic society. How can we do that in a way that actually brings healing to the planet, healing to our neighbors, our brothers and our sisters and our children? Like, how can we do everything in this healthy, conscious way that also honors the planet and honors each other? Because as humans, we are all interconnected. Even though we think we aren't, we are. So she sat on stage and had this kind of interview thing happening with her work partner. Her name is Sarah Vetter. And she went on to tell us a story about how she was really focusing on ending world hunger for a long time. That was like her life's mission. And she said, all of a sudden, she kept getting these invites to go to the Amazon forest. And she was like, okay, fine, I'll go there one time. And she went with a group of people, and I think it was one of her colleagues. She said they were in this beautiful ceremony. There was like a shaman there who was like, okay, welcome to the Amazon. Let's show you what the beauty is of this place. And if you know anything about the Amazon forest, they're considered the heart and the lungs of humanity. And you also may be aware that the Amazon is like literally under attack, right? Like the amount of deforestation that has great risk to planet Earth is happening in the Amazon. And so she got to go there, and everyone kept saying, just wait till you experience the Amazon. Your life's going to be changed. And so she's in this ceremony that she said they're around this fire, and the shaman is just kind of like guiding them, and they're laying there, and their feet were all towards the fire, and they're just kind of like enjoying these beautiful drums and the shaman like doing this kind of like meditative ceremony thing. And all of a sudden she had this vision of like flying, in her mind, flying like a bird of some sort. And then eventually these people were coming out of the forest and like looking up to the sky and like calling her in. And she said they all had these like orange stripes on their face. She was like, oh, that's interesting. She just kind of did the meditation. And then finally the meditation came to an end. And she said by that point it had been hours because the fire was almost gone. And she said, so they came to, and they were like, wow, that was really beautiful. And the shaman had each of them kind of share their stories. And each one of them shared how they had become an animal in their dream or their meditation or whatever. But her and her colleague sitting next to her both had the same exact dream or vision, which was that they were these big birds of some sort. And these people were coming out of the forest calling up to them, and they all had these orange stripes on their face. And she was like, that's weird. And the shaman said to them, it's not weird, actually. I believe you are being called to help these Amazonian people, and I really think you should go. And her story goes on to say, she kind of resisted it for a while, and she went on to do her financial healing work in other areas. She's like, no, 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 I'm going to end world hunger. And if you read her book, you'll learn that she hung out with like pretty incredible people, like Mother Teresa. She went and hung out with Mother Teresa and was like on that level of ending world hunger. So she was very serious about her humanitarian work and fundraising at that point, already tremendous amounts of money to end world hunger, which is such a heartbreaking problem, right? So in her book, she writes about that. But she said she just kept getting this message, and she'd be in board meetings, and like all of a sudden she'd be like seeing men across the table, and she's like, oh my God, they have stripes on their face. Am I making this up? And everyone around is like, no, Lynn, there's no one here with stripes on their face. She said, this vision just would not leave me alone. So she said, finally, my colleague and I said, okay, fine, we'll go. And they went to the Amazon forest in the middle of nowhere, and they basically met this tribe of Amazonian people who had very, very small exposure to the developed society. And she said they landed and they met these people, and they just basically they had them sit there and they stared at them for like 2 days. I assume because they were like, are these people safe, right? She said, so after they stared at them for 2 days, they finally started communicating. One of them actually spoke Spanish somehow, so they started communicating, and they got to know each other. And the rest of the story is like, I can't go into the whole story, but basically she said they became partners. They became partners, and the Amazon tribe said to them, we need your help. We have called you here because we need your help. And I forgot to say, as they came out of the forest, when they landed in this tiny little prop plane in the middle of the Amazon forest, they landed. And as these people come out of the forest, they were these men with these yellow bandanas, just like her vision, and these orange stripes on their face. And she said she was just like, what is happening? What is happening? That this is actually a calling. These people are exactly like the vision. And okay, so fast forward. So they hang out for a few days and they start to communicate. And these Amazonian people are saying to them, we've called you here because we do need your help. We feel like there is danger coming, and we really want to just know, what can we do to protect ourselves? These forests and this land is our life, right? Like, we are happy. We don't need anything. We just cannot have our land destroyed to some extent. This is kind of what they started to get the hint of as they started to communicate. But this is my favorite part of the story, I think. I think the story is all incredible, but this is one of my favorite parts. They said to them, but if you're going to help us, they said, do not do it because you are going to help us because we're these poor people who need your help. They were like, no, we are good. We are self-sufficient. We are thriving. We have the land that is giving to us. Like, we are, like, our families are good. We are good. Help us because your liberation and our liberation is interconnected. And that, when Lynn said that, my heart just like, it locked in. And I was like, God, that's so true. Like, that is what I've always felt like about my work here at Fresh Start Family. I am a parenting coach, but I am a child advocate at my core. And I know for sure that when I help children thrive, which I believe children are the biggest oppressed group in the entire world, the way children are treated, harmed, hurt, humiliated, made less than, like, they are the number one oppressed group in the world. And it was so fun to hear one of my mentors, Sharon McMahon, say that a few weeks ago when we were on our call, because I don't hear people talk about that very often. And it is like my number one driver of my work is I am a child advocate at my core. And I believe if you can change the way you raise children, you can change the entire world. And so we'll get back to that in a minute. So I just love that idea, right? Like, don't help people because you're like, oh, I'm better than, and I'm going to help you because you can't do it on your own. It's like, no, your liberation and my liberation is intertwined. And so yeah, it just represents my heart so much. And I think that's why I've been dropped into such a high level of feeling this last year or two in America, because the amount of suffering and harm and humiliation and violence that has come up, really, like, I think at this point, like, it's hard to deny that it's from the top down. I know I have so many incredible people in my life, left, center, and right, and I truly respect everyone, right? Like I really, really do. And I think we're getting to a point where it's very hard to deny that there is something happening in America from the top down that is really freaking scary. And we're going to talk about that in a minute because I believe that the darkness is finally being exposed to the point where we can flip the systems, or as Jesus did, flip the tables. But when we go back to Lynn Twist, so she tells that story, and I'm like, dang, that's meaningful. And then she goes on to also talk about I think Kate Northrup had asked her, like, hey, what's giving you hope these days? Because obviously we're in a really intense time, not just in America, but in the world. And then she went on to tell a story about another incredible person that she had worked with. And again, this is an 80-year-old person who has raised hundreds of millions of dollars to help people. She has dedicated her life to helping people. She actually, after she met that tribe of people in the Amazon, she went on to form the Pachamama Alliance and has raised so much money to contribute to the healing of the planet and the protection of the rainforest and the empowerment of people like the Pachamama people. So she's just done incredible work in the world, but to sit there and watch an 80-year-old who has been through 8 decades on this planet, who has raised children in every, like she's been a mom for that long and a humanitarian and a business owner. It just was really impactful for me to hear her words and to hear her perspective. But she said, well, what's giving me hope right now, actually, she said back, a while back, decades back, she said she was friends, not just friends, but like tight with, and this person became one of her biggest mentors. His name was Bucky Fuller. And I have some notes here so I can give him the proper speaking to. So he was a prolific 20th century American architect, inventor, designer, and futurist. He aimed to solve global problems through sustainable, resource-efficient design. He focused on, this is a very big word, see if I can say it, epimeralization, doing more with less to provide for all of humanity. And he cared about humanity's ability to create a world that works for everyone. And so she said she just really respected this guy and really got entrenched in his work. And he had a big influence on her life and her humanitarian work. And he had shared back then, I think she met him in the late 70s. And she said she was sitting with him one day when he shared a kind of prophetic, he was confident that he said, every so often, systems will change. And he basically said, in 50 years, there is going to be a massive flipping of the systems. And it is going to be really big, and it's going to be kind of really a little volatile, but it for sure is going to happen. And it is going to birth something new and amazing and better. And she, from stage, said, go ahead and do the math. 1976 is when she sat with him and had that conversation. And the year right now is 2026. And she went on to talk about how she really sees that, like, what we're going through as a nation and really in the world, because it's not like America is the only place where there is just heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak happening. She said, I think it's kind of like we're pregnant. And she said, that when you're pregnant, it can feel really hard. And in the beginning, you have morning sickness. And she said, I feel like that's what COVID was like for us. That's what COVID was. She said, when you're pregnant, you think, oh my God, something's wrong with me. I'm sick. I'm throwing up. She's like, no, you're just growing a new life. These are child pains from like growing a human inside your body, right? You are not sick. She said, I think that's what COVID was for humanity. And now we are at the point where it is so painful and it is so intense, and people are having to forcefully look at the amount of harm and darkness in our world that is coming to the light. And of course, she said it in her own words. I'm just kind of paraphrasing as best as I can here. But she said, women, if you've had a baby, that before you have a child, especially if you're, I don't know, it feels like the more of us have medicine than not these days, right? Like I had an epidural, ended up having an emergency C-section, but I had an epidural. So I didn't feel this like full pain moment that so many women who don't use a medicine or a painkiller feel, right? But if you've ever spoken to a woman who gives birth without painkillers, you will hear that it is like intense. Like they think that they are going to die, right? Like the moment, like when you are peaking, so to speak, like in transition, they call it, they say that it's like, it's this crazy feeling of like, I'm going to die. This baby is not going to work. Like my whole body is going to break. The baby's not going to come out. And then this like very magical spiritual thing happens when the baby comes out. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, the pain goes away and you literally are holding a new life in your hands. And again, I can't totally relate to that because I had 2 C-sections and I was absent for my first one, meaning I was unconscious. But I know that I've talked to enough women, even if they had pain medicine, to mimic that story enough to know that I think she's spot on. So she said, right before something incredible breathes life, it is the most painful, gnarly contraction season of life. And it just feels like you're not going to be able to do it. And she said, I think that's what's happening right now. We are in that birthing process and we are in the contraction zone where everything is coming to a head. And it feels like for many of us who have trouble just going about our day and dropping our kids off at school and making lunches without speaking to our brothers and sisters in Minnesota that are literally like begging for us to help them, right? Through the internet these days. I've had multiple mentors and good friends who have shown up, who have like literally turned their lives upside down to advocate for their brothers and sisters in Minnesota. One of them being Jenna Kutcher, one of my favorite mentors who I've studied with for years. She literally dropped her entire podcast and dedicated her life to becoming a pro-activist, to stand up for her brothers and sisters in Minnesota who really, she's like, she lives there. This is her neighbors. Like, she's like, we are under attack. I don't think you guys understand how awful this is. Like, we really need help. And she raised over $100,000 within a few weeks. Like, people are just showing up, right? But yeah, it's that feeling of like, this is so bad. Like this, like, how can people not be seeing this, right? Like, yeah, the humiliation, the violence, the power over, the threats, just the religion gone wrong, like so many things that those of us can see very clearly that we are just like, what is happening? This feels so scary and so heavy. So yeah, I loved that analogy she had of the birth. And so a few days after I'd come home, I was just like, wow, so just... And then, well, actually, before I go on to that, I'll tell you this last part. And she sat there with tears in her eyes. And she said, I sit here on a stage as an 80-year-old and I tell you that even though it's really intense right now, she said, I am so thankful that I get to be part of this transition. She said, I'm so grateful. And she said, what he predicted and what I know and I have a feeling is going to come true is that the next 25 years are going to be really hard. They're going to be full of hardship and really the flipping of the systems, right? Like the flipping of the tables. And she said, it's going to be really intense and it's going to be a lot. But she just said, I am so grateful that I get to be a part of it. And as I watched her wipe tears from her eyes, I just thought, wow, that's how I want to be. She also described herself as a pro-activist because I stood up and raised my hand in this room of 200 plus people. And I was like, okay, cool. I love your work. I love what you do and what you stand for and the goodness that you have contributed in the world. I'm like, and how do you stay in this pro place of like advocacy when there just feels like such darkness in the world, right? Like there is such opposition and sometimes it feels like such forces of evil that are literally working against you when you try to help children or when you try to help the planet or when you try to help people in oppressed, marginalized groups. Like it just feels so heavy sometimes. Like how have you kept going and stayed like really focused on what you do best, which is obviously very effective, right? At bringing healing and thriving to humanity. And she said, I've always been a proactivist, which means I try my best to stand taller for the things that I believe in and that I advocate for than, than fight against the systems of decay and harm and all that stuff. She said, but she said, back in must have been the 80s or something, there was one guy, she said, but I do step into the arena of standing against things for sure. She said, I just focus more on the pro-activism piece. But she said, back in the 80s, there was one guy at ExxonMobil who he started the entire lie around how like all of the research and science around global warming and, just the data that they had to support like, hey, humans, maybe we should do something about the way we're living so we can protect this planet. He had created this lie and was the beginning of the spread of misinformation. And she said, I walked straight into a boardroom with him. Basically, I think the way she described it was became respectful, air quotes, somewhat friends. She said, and I addressed the harm he was doing. And then she said, I also invited him to the Amazon, and he ended up coming to the Amazon with me. And I don't know how that story ended, but the point being is she was like, I don't avoid it. But I focus more on what I stand for while also addressing the harm. And it was important for me to hear that because the other part of my question was, back when I first started to teach positive parenting and had this kind of calling rise up in me, one of my biggest visions was that I wanted to stand on Capitol Hill by the time I was 80 years old and be celebrating that I helped end corporal legal punishment. So if you don't know, corporal punishment is still legal in 19 or 24, I think it's 19 states in public school systems. Corporal punishment is still legal in the United States of America. And corporal punishment is still legal in all homes. So there's like not even an ounce of movement to say it is illegal to hit and harm children. Like, nope, you can do it all you want as long as you don't leave a bruise. Like, go for it. Like, parents are just, it's totally fine. You can hit and harm children. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And then in freaking school systems. So years ago, I started doing this work 15 years ago, right? I founded Fresh Start Family almost 10 years ago now. But that was one of my core visions. And I had lost track of it a little bit over the years, right? I had been growing our membership, the Fresh Start Experience, and getting a book deal and growing our certification program, like all the things. And it felt so good in that moment to lock back into that true humanitarian focus of like just protecting children. And I said to her, I have this vision that I'm going to be standing on Capitol Hill as an 80-year-old and I'm going to be celebrating. I don't know if you've ever seen any footage of Mr. Rogers, but he did a lot of work on Capitol Hill. I grew up in Maryland, so grew up right outside of DC, very familiar with DC. But he spent a lot of time on Capitol Hill advocating for children. And so it just felt so good to get back in touch with that like true root vision that I had. And to hear her just speak to it of like, just keep focusing on what you stand for while not turning a blind eye to the harm. And so a few days after I'd gotten home, I was sitting there praying, meditating in my bed one afternoon, and I was just trying to quiet my brain a little bit because I just had so many thoughts going of like downloads and amazing inspiration that I had after, finishing that retreat in Tennessee. But one of the things that kind of dropped into me so solidly was how my transition here at Fresh Start Family from, hi, I'm a positive parenting teacher, to then it's turned into like, oh, what we do is we teach strategies that are rooted in empowerment. Like all day long when I coach the students that are in my programs, I am teaching them how to become empowered, to become self-sustainable, to have an embodied approach to their parenting. So they are working with their nervous systems. They are making confident decisions. They are setting firm and kind boundaries, but doing it in a way that really eradicates fear, force, intimidation, humiliation, harm, all those things from their home. Like that's what we do all day long. So it's turned into powerful parenting, which is why the new book, Fresh Start Your Family, Powerful Parenting to Restore Peace in Your Home, why that has become, that term is like now what I refer to myself as a powerful parenting teacher. Because when you have true power with your children, you no longer have to intimidate them into submission. That whole submission model is just like, it goes away. They actually do what you want them to do because they just respect you. They look up to you. They watch you modeling the same things that you are asking them to do, right? You are able to teach them instead of just tell them what to do. Since 99% of what children learn is caught, not taught, you have to step into a new level of healing and growth and empowerment and confidence that just works so well. Because when a parent is empowered and confident, but in a humble way, right? Not the like empowered, confident way of the past, which is the autocratic and authoritarian way, like do what I say or else, but empowered in like a true, dignified way where you have the ability to influence other human beings with connection and relationship and firm kindness. It just unlocks so much. So as I was sitting there meditating and praying, this like next body of work, which is so funny because I'm like, okay, I have a book to sell right now. We have this amazing book that's coming out this year, right? May 19th it drops. Pre-orders are open. Please go pre-order your copy. It's really helps authors like myself when you pre-order. freshstartfamilyonline.com/pre-order. So exciting. We have so many fun bonuses that we're so excited to share with you guys. But this new body of work popped into my body, which is awesome because as authors, as creators, as visionaries, we have to work years out, right? So this will be like my body of work for 2027, 2028. This year, we're obviously going to really focus on the book right now, but you'll hear me start to use this language. So this title of this new body of work pops into my head, which is The Rise of Democratic Parenting. And you should have seen me. I like sat straight up in my bed. I was like meditating like this. I might have even had my red light on, but I was like, I went like this. And I sat straight up and I looked out the window and I just kind of stopped and I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. The Rise of Democratic Parenting. And then the second kind of subtitle popped into my head. And I don't think this is it. We probably need some massaging of this. But if you know me, you know I'm a metalhead and I'll wear glitter one day and like, fun pink clothing. And then the next day I'll be at like a heavy metal show with my kids. But the subtitle was How to Rage Against the Machine of Authoritarianism to Raise a New Breed of Humanity. And so that second subtitle will probably need to be softened a little bit, but it was so beautiful to have that dropped in. And then 2 days later, we're sitting at my daughter's beach volleyball tournament. And I was just like, I could not stop. I was like, Terry, I have to draft this entire book right now. And I was reading Jen Hatmaker's new book called Awake. Highly recommend it if you haven't read her book. She's amazing. And I took off the cover and I didn't have any paper. I had forgotten my Kindle at home. And I just found a pen in my purse and I just outlined the entire book that basically teaches parents how to fully dissent from an authoritarian system. And I broke it all down. It flowed out of me so fast that I was just like, what is happening? This is wild. But I think why it dropped into me so profoundly is because right now, I think the authoritarianism that we are seeing unfold or autocratic systems is on stage so clearly. Like the entire world is watching, right? Like we're mid-Olympics right now and the entire world is watching this unfold. And so it's getting more and more hard to just make excuses. Oh, that's just this, or that's just, he didn't really mean that, or, oh, no, people are dying. There's like, I don't mean to laugh about it, but my point is, it's like, it is on a world stage. And so we are seeing very, very clearly the harms of an authoritarian system, right? Like the check marks of authoritarianism, whether it's in a nation or whether it's in a home, it's all the same. It is all the same. It's all the same tactics. And so I just thought, wow, this is so beautiful because this is what I want everyone to understand too, and why I feel so strongly about this is, yes, I do want to stay in my lane to some degree. I am not a history teacher. I am not a constitutional expert, right? I have done a crap ton of learning with Sharon McMahon. Sharon McMahon, I think by this time her episode may be out. It may come out right after this episode. But Sharon McMahon, one of my favorite teachers in the world. She's known as America's favorite government teacher. I have studied a lot with her, but I don't want to be an expert in that, right? But I do want to help people understand that in my lane is teaching parents a democratic firm and kind system. And when we raise children in a democratic, firm and kind system that includes a power with structure, not a power over structure, but a power with structure, then those kids that we are raising now, whatever generation, they grow up to be the leaders of tomorrow. And so you look at this current, group of leadership, and you can tell that the system that they are using is just very, very different than the democratic, firm and kind system that we are used to in America. And that's why you see so many people fighting so hard to stand up and say, not only is this not okay, but this is dangerous. Like we are backsliding. It is happening fast here. And so I just see more and more people finding the courage to use their voice and say, I am not okay with this, to speak up in their churches and their Easter dinner table, even though it's very uncomfortable, or on front porches with their friends from the neighborhood and say, actually, I see this in a different way. And I do feel scared. And I do feel like it's not okay to normalize this behavior. The belittling and harm of women and children and justifying violence and just all the things that we're seeing unfold. But all of them are very, very classic textbook authoritarian system, if that makes sense. So with democratic systems, it just looks a lot different, right? Like, so everything we teach in the parenting world, it really is the same way when you look at the way a democratic system is run in a nation. And so, yeah, it was really fun to just kind of get that down on paper. And I'm sure after we fully get through this book season, where we're getting our book right now, which is more, I see more of like the how-to manual, and it's just like full of stories, personal stories of like what it looked like for me to enter into this work with a very different system that I inherited, right? Which was an autocratic or authoritarian system. You tell a kid, you just do what I say because I said so. And if they don't listen, then they get a timeout, or they don't get dessert after dinner, or they get punished to some degree. And that's just going to make a kid listen, right? And it was like, hell no, that wasn't going to work. So enter in this new way of parenting that we learned when Stella was 3 years old and took us a long time to master. But here she is at 18 years old. And every single chapter of the book is just story after story of where I got it wrong, or where, we had a really big challenge that we either didn't handle well or ended up handling in a way that we later learned from, or we handled in a way that we really were able to use the tools and the strategies. So it's a storybook, right? It's a book designed to help you feel like you're not alone, even if you do have reactive tendencies and are in a season where you are relying on, say, classic punishment, or you find yourself shaming your kids or yelling at them. Like, you are not broken. You just need a fresh start. Like, let me help you understand the how to, so you can then do it differently with your kids. Like, that is this book, and it's beautiful. But my next body of work is going to be a little bit more systems-based, so we can understand that when you educate yourself on systems, you become more aware and empowered to be able to advocate for healthy systems, which in my opinion is always going to be a power with, right? Like, that is the beauty of an American democracy. It is the power of the people, right? Like, we get to contribute to more peace in our nation and the world if we are brave enough to take part in democracy. What doesn't work is if people just quietly submit, or if they're too scared to say anything, so they become silent, right? Like, I think those of us who are using our voices and courageously speaking up right now, what we are saying is, don't wait to use your voice. Like, advocate now. call your local representatives. That incredible America's Favorite Government teacher, Sharon McMahon, you can find her on Instagram. Her episode will air again either soon or it already aired, but her new children's book that goes along with her Small and Mighty book is so good. So The Small and the Mighty is a book that I read this last year that really is another place I found so much hope. And now she's coming out with a kid's book. And so make sure you go give her some love and follow her. But she is really good at trying her damnedest to respect all the different angles and opinions. And she has gotten to a point this year where she's like, guys, we can't be afraid of just like similar to what I'm saying. Like, there comes a point when you can't make everyone happy anymore. You have to call out the atrocities that is a direct assault to the democracy of the United States of America. And so for those of us who are finding the bravery and the courage to use our voices in a way that hopefully connects us to others, and like we're not trying to demonize anyone, but we are trying to give the message of it is very important that you speak up now. Like, do not wait. Do not think that just the next election or something is going to be your time to be like, I'm anti-violence. I'm pro 19th Amendment for women to vote. No, we need you to use your voice now, because so many times in history, people really thought, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. Or, no, authoritarianism won't, oh, no, we're too strong. And time again, there's so many examples of where the backslide happened, even though people thought it wouldn't. And so just use your voice. So Sharon McMahon, she does have a website, SharonMcMahon.com. It's MCMAHON, SharonMcMahon.com/act. And if you go on there, it will take you 5 minutes to just call your local representative and say, hey, I advocate for this, or thank you for representing my voice. And my voice is standing tall for A, B, and C, right? Like as I'm recording this episode, the latest assault is having a high level Christian nationalist person. His name is Doug Wilson. I have been teaching anti-Christian nationalism for years. I have been helping parents, like a core part of my work is helping parents escape the religious trauma upbringings where high control Christian circles, they raise them in a way that they were hurt and harmed and shamed, and all of it was done in the name of God. Like so many of our students here at Fresh Start Family come from that upbringing, and I and my team help them shake those teachings so they can then do it differently with their own kids, right? So like we are very well versed in the harm and the danger of Christian nationalist circles who preach hurt and harm of children as air quotes godly. It's nothing new to us. I've been doing this for 10 years now. I've owned Fresh Start Family for almost 10 years, and I've been teaching in the church everywhere. I have a full course called Jesus Guided Parenting. Like it is nothing new for me. What's new is that this type of thinking that it is okay to hurt and harm children is now in the top leadership of our nation. So this gentleman, his name is Doug Wilson. He is now leading prayers in our Pentagon. So like every month, this is the guy that if you're in the military, you have to go sit and listen to him preach. And the other thing that he is really big about is removing the rights of women to vote. Like if you ask him and his team, his church, it's based out of Idaho, they will tell you like, yeah, we advocate for the removal of the 19th Amendment of women voting. Yeah, that's happening. That's not like a fringe, it's some weirdo on the internet. That's just extremism. No. That's happening now, today. I'm recording this episode in mid to late February. That is happening right now. A guy who not just preaches a little bit, like that is his main stick, is submission culture, of having one vote for the family. That means the man, and then also the hurting and harming of children. And so it's just been heartbreaking to watch this kind of stuff get platformed over and over again. And so call SharonMcMahon.com/act. Just call. Nobody even has to know that you are advocating for the democracy of your nation. If you are American and you love this nation, like, your voice matters, right? Like, call and say, I advocate for if you're going to go the pro-activism route, like Lynn Twist preaches, it's like, I stand tall for the separation of church and state. I stand tall for women's right to vote. I want to be sure that you understand that I am not okay with the repealing of the 19th Amendment and someone leading our prayers for our military that preaches the removal of women's voting rights and the hitting and harming of children, right? Like, your voice matters, right? And so that's the same in democratic firm and kind parenting. And so when parents learn to fully eradicate fear and force from their parenting model, they raise children who understand that they matter, right? Like, children in the democratic firm and kind parenting system or powerful parenting system, they get the message very, very young that their voice matters, that their rights matter, that hypocrisy is not okay, that taking responsibility for mistakes and humility is a superpower, that making mistakes or getting it wrong or changing your mind does not make you bad. It makes you human. They learn by watching people lead to get what they want without overpowering, forcing into submission, threats, violence. Like, when children are raised in this type of environment, they grow up to be people who are empowered to lead healthy democracies because they were raised with a healthy democratic system in their parenting walk. Does that make sense? So I can see that this is like spreading like wildfire. This idea of like the rise of enough of us saying no more. Like, the darkness is so visible at this point that you would literally have to be hiding under a blanket to not see the darkness. Like, it is on full display. Like, and I know so many people are like, I don't really tune into current events, or I got to protect my nervous system, right? And I really do respect that. I quit the news for like 8 months one year. And I also quit social media for 8 months. Like, I was just like, I got to give my nervous system a break. And I will tell you that now is not the time to fully check out. Like, now is the time to use your voice. Like, it really is at that point where a lot of really educated historians and government teachers and people that are really respectable people are saying, like, we're getting close to this, like, being not even getting close. This is the 4-alarm fire, right? And so just thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you who is using your voice, doing anything. I will say that just anchoring down and learning this type of parenting, it will for sure change the future. And I'm just advocating for everyone to do even a little bit more than that right now, because if 1 million people use their voice in a small but mighty way, then we can avoid this whole situation getting worse. So, I think I wanted to end with this. Thank you for being here and listening. So when I go away, so I often will say, I'm going to quit social media for a while. I'm going to quit the news for a while. I'm going to come back out, right? I'm just going to like reset, take care of myself. What's happened for me over the past year is when I come back, I can feel the collective energy very strongly. And I am an empath. I've learned through the years that my high levels of sensitivity, so I am very sensitive to the sun. I'm very sensitive to perfume. I will get a headache so easily. I have learned that that is not a weakness. That is a superpower. I also am very emotionally attuned. So I can feel the energy, and the collective energy, I think I can feel really deeply right now, is on the rise. Again, I'm watching people who have never, like ever stepped into advocating for a healthy democracy. Like, it's not like any of us are wanting to do this. It's not like when I was little, I was like, I want to grow up and be almost 50 years old and be advocating for democracy. Like, I just was like, no, none of us are like wanting to do this. But all of a sudden there is this collective energy of like, we must stand up for children and women and groups of oppression and stand for anti-violence and stand for healthy democracy. Like, we must. And the time is now, because the system is flipping. As Bucky Fuller predicted, the system is flipping. Also, I forgot to mention earlier that it's not just, but I think Bucky Fuller was a little bit more of like a futurist or, I don't know, he was really interesting, right? But what I have learned is that in all of my circle, like I can tell you there's probably 5 people who I have known and met and spent time with over the last year or so that have predicted this. They're saying, no, it's going to get really bad. And then it's going to come to a head. And then everything is going to be exposed and it is going to flip. Like it is going to flip. And 8 months ago, I was like, I don't know. This seems really bad. I'm just really depressed. And like last June, when our state was like full blown attacked, like it was like we woke up one day and it was like, poosh, descent. Like the amount of masked men with machine guns and unmarked cars like blazing down our street was just crazy. It was like, it felt like it was overnight, right? That's when it started. And many of us were like, the spidey sense just went off and we were like, this is not normal. This is not okay. What's happening? But like, there's people that were saying from the beginning, oh yeah, it's gonna get bad. It's gonna be like a really bad pimple and then it's gonna pop and it's going to start over. The cool thing is it's not just been like, because I hang in like lots of different circles, right? Like I'm in the faith world. I'm in the Christian world. I'm also in like the energetic and nervous system world, right? Like there's a lot of incredible people in my circles that believe in different things. But right now, everyone seems to be in agreement that the system is flipping and the tables are turning. But one of the more faith people that I wanted to mention, if you find yourself being more of like a faithy person, is I really respect the work of Sarah Bessey. She has been someone who has grounded me down into confidence around my evolving faith over the years as I started to see very clearly with my own eyes the harm that was being done in the evangelical Christian world that I was a part of for 10, 15 years. And I started to see one by one, yikes, ooh, it's not just the hurting and harming of children that is being preached, that I did make a lot of forward motion to like help in that world. I taught in the church for over 7 years. But it wasn't just that. It was then the attack against the gay community and the demonization and the exclusion of them. And then it became the weaponization of politics and the forming of like the forced, like the teaming up there where like anybody in the evangelical church was really being pressured to like vote a certain way. And that was like creepy to me. And I just started taking these back steps and I was like, this doesn't feel right anymore. It doesn't feel like Jesus. Sarah Bessey is one of the people who filled me with hope and who I was like, oh, this is the type of Christianity that I'm interested in. This is who I want to surround myself with. And from that point, I met so many incredible people. And if you want to see all the people we recommend here at Fresh Start Family, you can go to freshstartfamilyonline.com/faith. And we list out, like, at this point, we've hosted like, I don't know, I'm going to say like 30 out of 300 episodes, at least 30, 40, maybe even 50 are faith-based, but they are evolving faith episodes, as Sarah Bessey says it. So one of her latest books called, I think it's called Field Notes in the Wilderness or something. Sarah Bessey, just Google that, Field Notes Wilderness. I'll make sure my podcast manager puts it in the show notes too. But she speaks in that book about how every 500 years or so, religion, the Christian religion, has a bit of a rummage sale, so to speak. And I think that was actually a term that was coined by someone else. I don't think I saved it. I had that up. I was going to tell you who the original person who coined that term was, the rummage sale. But Sarah Bessey talks about that as like every 500 years or so, there is this turning or flipping of the system, so to speak, or kind of wildfire, so to speak, and the religion kind of gets turned on its head and cleanses itself. As I said, she uses the term rummage sale, and all of the harmful, all it goes away, and then from a place of rebirth grows the strong, healthy stuff. And as being someone who just drove through the Southern California mountains. So my little guy, who's now 6'2", he's 15 and 6'2", we drove up to the mountains this last weekend to chase a storm and go snowboarding together. And it was so much fun. We got 5 over 5 feet of fresh snow. But as we were driving up and down, right before you hit the snow, it's kind of crazy. You drive up these Southern California mountains, and the entire mountain, I'm talking huge mountain, is like burned. So all of these beautiful pine trees are like burned to a crisp. And you can tell the entire side of the mountain was in a wildfire a few years ago. And as sad as that is, and as heartbreaking as that is, and I was saying to Taryn, I'm like, can you imagine the firefighters who helped protect the homes that were right on the other side of these mountains that we're driving down right now? Lake Arrowhead, Big Bear, Deer Lick, all these towns. Like, can you imagine seeing this entire mountain on fire? And then you look at, yes, it's sad. Those trees are like black and they're still there. The sticks are still there. And I mean, again, an entire mountain of this. But then you look at the earth and there's all this rebirth happening. And there's green trees everywhere sprouting up. And the thing about forest fires is the forest often becomes stronger than it was before. And it was just so cool to see this mountainside and to know that when my little boy has kids one day, he will drive down that same mountain, but that mountain will not be blackened sticks anymore. It will just be a forest, and it'll be so strong because in whatever 20 years, that forest will have rebirthed all new life, and it will be stronger and it will be beautiful. And that's what Sarah Bessey speaks to when it comes to religion. And those of us who have been really deep in helping eradicate the harm that has been done by the religion gone wrong. Like, again, I spend my days, day in, day out, especially once people get to my highest level of work. We have a certification program, which means like many of our parents just do it to reach full mastery, we call it, but like 7 months of intense mentorship with me, and you come out on the other end with a certification. So if you want to teach in your town, if you want to volunteer in your church, you can, right? You have a certification, but a lot of people just do it to reach that full mastery point and like get healed and find massive growth in their homes. But so many of the students that I help like find deep healing came from these awful, toxic, harmful religious circles where what was done to them as children, what was said to them, air quotes, in the name of God, is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, right? So like the point is the wildfire feels like it is right now, right? Like there are just every single angle. I will often say to my husband, it just feels like every day there's a new basement. Like we've hit lower and lower, and what's being normalized is more heartbreaking and more heartbreaking and more heartbreaking, right? Like it's just, when is the basement going to reach the lowest point, right? So it really almost feels like it's on fire. Like we're in the midst of like a really hard season, but it just gave me so much hope to hear Sarah Bessey speak to it as like a rummage sale, and to me to see that analogy of the forest fire, but the rebirth happening, and then to be going into this Easter season knowing that death is not the end. Like sometimes it takes this type of atrocity and bringing it to the table, right? Like if you're a person of faith, like the story of Jesus's crucifixion was not pretty. It was not pretty. It was heartbreaking. And on the other side of it came the life of Christ, right? So I hope that brings you hope today. That was a long episode. I forgot to mention, last thing, I just glanced at my notes, so I'll say this last thing and then I promise we're going to go. I can't wait to get your feedback on this episode. I really want to hear from you. Shoot me an email, shoot me a DM on Instagram. Is when I had this on my list of things to record, and I did pop open my phone today, or yesterday. I was actually waiting for Taryn at the bottom of a lift. And I saw Dr. Shefali saying in her own way almost the same exact thing that I have said to you in this episode today. And I was like, holy shit. There is alignment happening. There is a rising of human souls, especially in America, but I think the world, and especially in women. We can see very clearly what is happening. And we will not be silenced. We will not be stopped. And there is a collective energy that we're going to be okay if we can just band together. And to hear Dr. Shefali, which if you don't follow her, she is incredibly wise. She teaches what she calls conscious parenting. My work, I'm now referring to it as powerful parenting. She refers to her body of work as conscious parenting. But go check out her Instagram, one of her latest posts. You might have to dig back a little bit once this episode airs, but it is so beautiful how she speaks to the atrocity and the power over and the ego and the things that are being justified right now, that are being done by people who were raised in a system that included all the things that they are now living out in their life as adults. So if we want to change the world, we got to start with the kids, right? And so to hear someone like her having the same exact download as me, but just in her own words, I was like, okay, we're going to get this message out into the world because together we can do this. It might be a wild next decade of life, but when we ground down into purpose and stand tall for what we believe in and raise this next generation of human souls in a way that is going to create more peace, more connection, more dignity, more integrity, like I think that means we're going to be okay. Would you agree? All right, you guys, big hugs. Go use your voice. SharonMcMahon.act. Go raise your kids with democratic, firm and kind, powerful parenting. It is such an honor to cheer you on. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this conversation. It means the world to me. I really believe that we can unite and use our voices for good when we stay connected, when we stay in high levels of respect and dignity for each other. We can do this. And the next decade is going to be really meaningful for the entire future of humanity. And it is an honor to be leading you as we step into this next chapter. All right, guys. Bye.